Howdy, y'all. This is the Losman here, and it's Sunday night, which means it's time for another Losman's Lazy Sunday Roundup. Now, this week there was quite a bit of activity that occurred in the horror scene. Um, with 53 days left till Halloween, we're starting to get a lot more news and information coming out related to some horror movie releases and other events since Halloween is coming up. And I know one of the major events that occurred this past week, and it was kind of shocking, well, kind of startling, was that actor Sid Haig suffered an accident, and he was sent to the ICU. Now, not much else has been released about his condition, but let's just say that he's not young, and I am hoping that he'll recover. He was scheduled to appear in San Antonio in 2 weeks for the Big Texas Comic Con, and he was going to do so dressed up as Captain Spaulding. I probably would venture to say he's not going to be able to make the trip. I mean, if he is injured and he is ailing, he probably doesn't have the strength to do it, and I wouldn't want to have him put it stress like that on him. So if anything, let's wish him well. You want to, you know, honor Sid Haig and his great career, and think fondly of him. Think good thoughts. I'm not a person who prays or anything, but sending good vibes his way. Let's go out and watch some of his movies. I mean, he's got quite a number of movies, which is leads me to the next topic here. Is strangely enough, I did a list of Sid Haig movies. I included 10 movies that he did in his career. Movies that people might not be as familiar with. I mean, everybody knows about his movies with Rob Zombie, and but he's got quite a career. He's been acting for like 5 decades, 5, 6, yeah, since the late '60s. So yeah, it's 6 decades. Yeah, 6 decades. No, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, 6 decades. That's quite a career. I mean, he goes all the way back to the movie Spider Baby, and strangely enough, he appeared in a number of movies with Pam Grier. Yeah, Pam Grier. That Pam Grier. Yes, Foxy Brown and Jackie Brown, and I remember when I watched Jackie Brown, seeing Sid Haig in the movie as a judge, and of course they had a reference to his name. So that's pretty interesting to know that the two of them have worked in a number of movies. I think at least 4 or 5 movies together. So yeah, they have a history together. That's pretty neat, to have a history with like that. Well, that being said, the other big event that occurred this past weekend was the release of It, or the second part to the movie It. Now, I didn't get a chance to watch it. I had other things going on. Well, I didn't have the time to do it, but I will hopefully get to it soon. What I have noticed is I'm getting kind of a very unique uh, reaction. It's like people either love it or they really hate it. The people who love it think it's wonderful and it's a good, way to close off the movie series. The people who dislike it, from what I gather, it's not that they dislike the movie. They just feel that it's a letdown, given how great the first movie was. They feel that maybe the movie is just, I don't know. It's just, for whatever reason, it's, I mean, whatever reason. Okay, 3 hours. That's the problem. A movie that is 3 hours long, a horror movie that is 3 hours long, that can be taxing, especially given that most horror movies are an hour and a half. I mean, that's generally how it is, unless they're Korean horror movies, and then they're 2 hours and 30 minutes. But damn, 3 hours. That's quite an investment for a movie. I mean, even when I went to go see Midsommar, that was like about what 2 hours, little and some change, and then Hereditary was what 2.5 hours. So I mean that can be challenging if you're accustomed to movies that are usually over in like what 85, 88, 89 minutes. But yeah, I'll definitely check it out, because it is a big deal movie, and I definitely want to get out there and take a look at it. Now, another interesting tidbit here that was released news wise was that actress Kyle Richards has announced that she's going to be appearing in the follow up Halloween movies. Now, if you're not familiar, Kyle Richards played the little girl in Halloween that Laurie Strode was babysitting, the night Michael came home. So it'd be interesting to see, yeah, an actress who was in the original Halloween movie come back and, play her character as an adult. Now, if you're not familiar who Kyle Richards is, it's not a boy, it's a girl, it's a lady. She is the sister to another actress named Kim Richards, who appeared in a number of movies in the 80s, most notably Tough Turf And she also was in another John Carpenter movie called Assault on Precinct 13. If you have seen Assault on Precinct 13, she's in the ice cream truck scene, and I'm not going to go any further about what happens, but if you've seen the movie, you know the scene very well. But the other funny reference to those two sisters is that they are related to Paris Hilton. I believe those are her cousins or aunts, so that's an interesting relation there. Now, another bit of news to report on, and this is something that was just revealed recently on Twitter. Apparently, Joe Bob Briggs confirmed the date of October 25th. He didn't say exactly why, but he did let people know that you might want to check Shutter out on that particular date. So I am speculating with a high probability that there will be a Halloween special for, of course, the last drive-in. Now, this was also confirmed by his co-host, his male girl, who's Diana Prince, or Kinky Horror as we know her on Twitter. She did pretty much confirm that there is something coming. They didn't say what exactly, and well, let's just say that it's going to be something Halloween related. So who knows? It might be a Halloween marathon. It might be a collection of classic Halloween movies. I mean, there's some really good anthology movies that are worth checking out, and I will do a video on some good Halloween anthologies that are worth getting out there. You know what? Oh, you know what? A list. Ooh, a list, definitely. Okay, and finally, it is the week. It is the week that's been 2 years in the coming, or in the the wait. It is going to be a Friday the 13th on Friday, so all you people who enjoy Jason Voorhees can get excited because this Friday will be the 13th. And yeah, I always like the Friday the 13th on the calendar. It's kind of funny because my brother was born on the 13th of November, which wasn't a Friday though. He wasn't born on a Friday, but I always thought it was funny he was born on the 13th. And of course, you also have Thursday the 12th and Saturday the 14th, which have their own fun little references to movies. Well, I don't know about Thursday the 12th maybe, but definitely Saturday the 14th. Yeah, that was. Yeah, I remember that. That's a cheesy movie from the 1980s with Richard Benjamin and Paula Prentice. Yes, it's bad, but it's fun. It's a fun kind of bad. One of those, silly movies that I remembered as a kid. Well, all right. So let's talk about some movies I watched this past weekend. Now, like I said, I'm still on my 300 movie challenge, and I passed 200, so yay, I'm making good progress. One of the movies I sought out, and this is one that I was kind of curious about. I've always been a fan of strange phenomena, UFOs, Bigfoot, and mysteries of the world, and one of the movies that I remember doing, some research on was an early film called UFO Abduction. Now, this is a movie that was made in 1989, and it was a home video, and it was put out but never released officially. It is like about a 70-minute home video taken as from the perspective of the cameraman, and it basically shows a family having a birthday party for a young family member, a little girl, and crazy things start to happen. They go outside, they see something fall from the sky, and over the next few minutes, they lose power, and something is outside, something not quite human. Now, what was unique about UFO Abduction is when it was made, just a simple home movie, kind of like a scary home movie to freak people out. It was made 10 years before the Blair Witch Project, so this is definitely one of the first found footage movies, or pseudo-documentary movies is another reference that you can use, because sometimes people confuse pseudo-documentaries with found footage. I kind of put the two together because they're similar formats. This movie never got an official release, and what was funny about the movie is when it did come out, and I guess the gentleman who made the movie released the movie to a distributor, they didn't really put it out. Well, not officially. Excuse me. Basically, The movie was said to have been lost in a fire a couple of years later, and he didn't think anything of it. Well, a funny thing happened. UFO groups were passing around footage. Oh, excuse me. And this footage was basically purported to be UFO footage of a genuine event. And they were basically using the footage from this movie, not realizing that it was a fictional movie. Because it's pretty good. I mean it's amateurish, but holy crap, it is scary and it's creepy, especially if you don't know the context of it. So he had to come out and explain that no, this is fake. This is they took the titles cards off the movie, and here we are dealing with a a fake movie that's being purported to be real, and well, that kind of happens, the UFO community, sometimes they'll latch onto something, for whatever reason. I mean, conspiracies aside, this is a movie that did trick some people and confuse people, but if you get a chance to check it out, it's pretty cool. You can find it on YouTube. I found it under a alternate title because 10 years later they did remake the movie and with a slightly different plot, but generally the same idea and with better production values, better actors. But I like the original because it seems more organic, more natural, especially given the fact that, these aren't actors, or at least these aren't people you recognize. So it was definitely a good movie and definitely one worth checking out. So that was that UFO abduction. Now the next movie to check out is a movie, or another movie I checked out was a screener that was sent to me by Shudder. It was a movie released this week called The Wrath. Now The Wrath is a Korean horror movie that was released, I believe last year, and it details it's kind of like a period piece set probably like in the 14th or 15th century in Korea. It describes a young woman who is sold to a wealthy family and married off to their youngest son, who's their only surviving son. Now, she doesn't realize why she's being, put into this marriage. Of course, young poor girl, she's an orphan. She's, dutiful. She will do what she's told, and marrying into a prominent family will definitely, be good for her. Well, her husband is after they have their marital night of bliss, her husband is killed by the evil spirit that inhabits the home, which they didn't tell her about. The rest of the movie concerns her role with the family. She has, a mother-in-law that, is very stern, and she's got two sister-in-laws who don't like her because, they see her as a peasant. Yet, her place in the family gets elevated when, something blessed happens. But then she's made aware of the curse that the family has, and the rest of the story, obviously, is detailed in the story, and it's definitely worth checking out. I mean, if you're a big fan of Korean horror or K-horror, it's definitely a film that's, you might want to check out. It's good little, period piece, historic, and it's not too long. It's only about 90 minutes. You could check it out on Shudder, and I liked it. I mean, it was a fun little, it was, entertaining, a little creepy, and it did have some scary moments, and it was a nice little movie, different kind of movie to watch, especially given that most of the K-horror movies I've been watching are thrillers with intense thrillers, like I Saw the Devil and Train to Busan. So, Korean horror is quite a genre. Or it's quite an impressive collection of movies. So you definitely want to get that, check that out. Now, the other movie I checked out was a movie called The Bad Batch, which came out a few years ago. It's an interesting little movie. It's kind of like a Mad Max setting, without the cars, of course. But it features a young woman who has basically been cast aside by society and exiled to a desert community where she encounters some, unfriendly folk. And along the way, she finds a new sense of purpose. And it's an interesting movie. It's kind of hard to describe. It is directed by Anna Lily Amapur, I believe her name is. She's the lady who directed A Girl Walks Home Alone at Night. So it's definitely a different kind of a horror movie. And it's a bit of a, it's kind of a, I don't know if you can really call it a horror movie. It's got some horror elements, but it's a little different. It's definitely worth checking out. It was on my watch list, and I decided, you know what, let me check it out. So it's an interesting movie. It has an interesting cast. You have Jason Momoa in it, and then you also have let's see, you have Keanu Reeves and Jim Carrey. So yeah, it's definitely one to check out. I believe it's on Netflix if you want to check it out. Now the last bit here is a couple of lists I posted out there. As many of you may realize, or the people who follow my Twitter feed know, I have been doing a series of lists. Now, with since it's 53 days to Halloween, I've already put out about 47, 46, 47 lists of different topics related to horror, like lists of movies, various styles of movies, collections, genres, things like that. And this past week I did some fun ones. I put together a list of what I consider to be the worst remakes. That one got a little bit of traction, especially from people who didn't like some of the movies I selected. But you know what? Hey, it's my list. I get to decide. But it's interesting to see because you have some remakes that get released, and generally I'm not a fan of remakes in general. And but there are some I do like. Like the Crazies was a good one, and My Bloody Valentine was another one I enjoyed. But then you also have movies like The Wicker Man, which was horrifying, and other movies of that sort. So if you want to check it out, it was released this past week. Or the list I put out this week. I also did a list of found footage movies. Those are pretty popular, I've noticed, because I guess a lot of people are looking for good found footage movies to check out. So I put out about 10, I believe 10 or 11 found footage movies that are pretty decent. I mean, you may not have heard of some of them, but they're definitely ones that you want to check out because they're not the as well known as, let's say, Wreck or Grave Encounters, but there are definitely some good ones out there that I mean, if you're a fan of found footage movies, yeah, check these out. So that list was put out a couple of days as well. I also did a movie about viruses or illnesses. Yeah, that one was kind of icky, especially when you have movies where, especially like The Crazies, which was one of the movies, or let's see, there was a couple of other films out there that were a Contagion, which it's not really a horror movie, but it does deal with viruses, so that was pretty cool. And then, of course, one of the fun lists I did was one on exploitation movies. Now, I did that the day that I found out about Sid Haig, or did I do it after Sid Haig? Well, exploitation movies. So I went ahead and put out a couple of movies that are worth checking out. These are movies mostly from the 70s. So you got some colorful titles and interesting films out there, covering many areas, including blaxploitation and nunsploitation and, rape revenge, stuff like that. So, yeah, these are all movies that were very controversial, or at least, they were very exploitation based. And then today I put out a list of movies based on numbers. So if you go down the list, you'll go down from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, all the way up to 19. Each one is a movie that features a number in it. So, I have like Apollo 18 and 12 Monkeys and 13 Ghosts. So that's a fun one, because it took me a little bit of time to find some movies to associate with some numbers, because some of them are easy. I know, like when I was going to do the number 10, I was going to put Jason X. But I kind of put a rule for myself. I was not going to put like sequel numbers. So like I wasn't going to put like, Friday the 13th Part 2 for a 2. I wanted a movie that actually had a 2 in it. So when I saw Jason X, I was like, oh, well, wait a minute. Jason X, that's the 10th Jason movie. So I decided to go with a different one. I decided to go with 10 Cloverfield Lane because it actually has the number 10 in it. But, it was a fun little list. Now, tomorrow's list, which I'm going to be posting, or if I haven't posted already, is going to be a one to check out. It is a list, and I will, reveal it right now. 9 movies that were produced by Val Lewton. Now, if you're not familiar with Val Lewton, he was a producer at RKO in the 1940s, and he was responsible for putting together or producing some of the best horror movies of the 1940s, including The Body Snatcher, Cat People, Bedlam, and the I believe I Walked with a Zombie, I think it was called. But yeah, basically, yeah, 9 movies. They're all horror thrillers, and these are all classic movies. I mean, each one of them is, are really good movies. These are, they all rank really high on the Rotten Tomatoes score, and they do factor well in terms of the history of horror. I mean, they're not bloody, gut, gory movies. But when you look at a movie like Cat People, that is a hell of a movie, and it's definitely worth checking out. And if you like Boris Karloff, you definitely need to check out The Body Snatcher, because that is a great role for him. All right. Well, basically, this I'm gonna put a close on this for the week. Apparently, I had a cough or something, which kind of gave me a little bit of trouble there because I'm recovering from an illness. I don't know if I had the cold or allergies, which I don't have allergies, so it must be the cold. But it's over 100 degrees outside, so how can you be cold if it's so hot? That's what that's what it means to live in Texas. All right, so I'm gonna close out this video for the week and wish y'all, happy movie watching, and I'll catch y'all later.